We are April and Scott, creators of NaughtyGym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. Welcome back to the Naughty Gym Show. I'm your host, April, and this is the baddest Santa there is, my co-host and partner, Scott.
It's Daddy Santa.
I can't call you Daddy. You're bad. You're bad Santa. Okay. Dirty, naughty Santa.
Well, I'm excited about this episode because we're going to recap a little bit about an event we were asked to participate in this past weekend, but the focus of the episode is going to be on something surprising that happened at that event.
Yeah.
And how we've been navigating it. And it should make for some interesting conversation, I hope.
Yeah. But first, we want to talk a little bit about Naughty Gym, some things that we've got going on, some of our new merch. I've got my Naughty Gym Babe, our new shirt that is on in our merch store at naughtygym.com. I also have my women's badass shirt that has actually sold pretty well for all you women who want to walk into 2026 empowered and feeling like your baddest self. And January 3rd is our Be Better at Being Bad event, our full resort takeover at Hedonism 2. It's not too late to sign up. This is there's not a lot of rooms left, but if you want to surprise your lover or your partner, it's a great Christmas gift.
Especially if you've never been and they don't know what it is. I think you should just drop this gift in their lap, in their stocking.
Well, I will say this. If you've never been to Hedonism, this is a great week to go because we have historically had probably 40 to 50% of our attendees. This is their first time at Hedo. And a lot of them are even new to the lifestyle because it's a very safe space to kind of explore with your partner. We have therapists, we have sex coaches, we have sex educators that are offering workshops and keynotes that kind of help you navigate and test the waters in a very safe way. We also have just such a very inclusive community. We have a team of close to 30 hosts and presenters that are there to help you navigate, help you feel comfortable, answer any questions. And so if you're kind of on the fence about this, I say pull the trigger and do it.
All right. Is that all the events we're going to talk about before we get started?
Yeah. Another thing, if you are not on the email list, if you're not on our email list and you don't know or you want to know the events that we have coming up, because 2026 is a jam-packed year of retreats, events, and things that are going on, go to our website and there's a place where you could put in your email address so that you can get our bi-monthly newsletters.
And all of our events are under the event tab on that website if you want to find out more about what we're doing next year.
Okay. So you want to just go right into it?
Yeah. So this past weekend, was it Friday night?
Yeah,
Friday night. So if you're listening to this on the day we release it, we're 4 days outside of that event,
it's December 12th.
Yeah. We were asked, I guess I was originally asked to be sexy Santa at this party because it's a very LGBTQ-friendly party, but they needed a Santa Claus.
And it was hosted by Sapphire Starlington, and
a local drag queen
at one of the local bars, Maggie Myers, and a lot of the Huntsville drag queens were there. It was not a drag show. It was just a Christmas party, and they had door prizes and a DJ and dancing and so many fun ththings.
There was a lot of LGBTQ people. There was a lot of lifestyle people that showed up, and we really had a great time. Essentially, all our job was wear slutty Mr. Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus outfits. And they had a giant purple throne, which I didn't know they were going to have.
It was a Crown Royal throne because that was one of their sponsors.
And so I had to sit in the chair and let people sit on my lap. And April
What I thought was funny
was also in the pictures.
most people did not want pictures with me, which was fine because I absolutely loved watching people sit in your lap. I would be like, you want a picture with Santa? And they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, do you want me in it too? And most of them were like, no.
Well, that happened multiple times. Like there were times I would say, oh, you want a picture? You want a picture with me? And they would feel bad if they wanted the picture with you. So they would say something like, sure. And then one with April too. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can see why you're actually here. But we had a good time. There was great DJ. There was some fun games that they played. It was just
they put a really good party on.
Yeah, it was just a kind of a overall sort of lighthearted, fun experience. It went or for us late into the morning, about 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And, we had a good time, but we want to focus on something that happened that was very unexpected, I think, for both of us. There was a group of people that came that were friends of ours in the lifestyle. I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 couples. So, there were 12, 14, 15, 16. I don't know. Anyway, one of the people that came was a guy recently divorced. I think I'm telling that. Well, why don't you say a little bit about him? And then I'll move on to what we're really wanting to talk about.
Okay, so he was a friend of some friends. And they came and introduced us to him. And I really didn't think anything of it. I was not
there, in a mean way, but just.
No, I wasn't there in the capacity of like, this is a lifestyle event. And so we're kind of like looking for connections or something like that. But I always feel more comfortable in settings that are not lifestyle events because then I put pressure on myself to kind of make these connections. So they introduced me to him. He is a single guy. And right away, I was just having like fun, playful banter with him, which is my favorite. When I can use my dark humor with somebody and they laugh, usually I'm going to continue being not mean, but it's just fun for me. I grew up with brothers. I have sons. And so if I can just like make dirty jokes and make jokes at their expense and they laugh, that's always draws me to somebody.
Well, he was, he came up and introduced himself to me first, and we had a little bit of a conversation, and he had a friend with him that was celebrating his birthday. And so I talked to them for a bit, and then I think shortly after that, I ended up going back to the VIP room. I was wanting to get some food. And I was gone for a little while because I got into a conversation back there, and I came back out. I think this is the order of how things happen. And you and him were talking, and it was just you and him. And, you were having like a good conversation. There was a lot of laughing, smiling. And so I stopped, and instead of coming up and just, butting in on your conversation, I started talking to somebody else near there. But the conversation went on for a while, which was really good. And at some point I did walk over there because I needed to ask you something. And I could tell that this had gone from an introduction to, I think April's really enjoying this conversation, because when you're really into a conversation, not only are you smiling a lot, but your hands are going all over the place, that like Italian talking style.
Yeah.
And, I could see the lightness in your face. It was easy. You seemed like you were genuinely having fun, and it wasn't some sort of forced conversation. I walked over, and before I said anything, you go, well, I think we're going to go out on a dinner date talking about you and him. And this was way towards the end of the Yeah.
A lot had transpired because I had no intention of making that kind of connection. And sometimes I feel like you get excited about that before I do. Like you'll see me interacting with somebody, and I think you immediately start getting excited, like, oh, maybe she's forming a connection. That thought is never in my head. In fact, I was fucking around with him like I would a brother. Like not being mean, but being mean.
Kind of being mean.
Yeah. Well, we had started talking about, like, he asked what we do. And I started talking about, I told him a little bit about how early on in the lifestyle, I was saying yes to things that I didn't want to. And I really had a hard time saying no, and told him now I have no problem saying no. And I probably say no a little too much. And towards the end of the night, he said something like, well, would you say yes to me or something? And I was like, absolutely not. And so he said that a couple more times, and I was like, it's still a no. And even at that point, I still wasn't thinking this is somebody that maybe I would want to go on a date with. I was just trying to be present and having fun.
When I walked up and you said that statement to me, there also seemed to be, and I'll be curious to hear because we haven't discussed this. I felt like you were saying it as a statement, but you were still gauging my reaction. Like, okay, see, is this going to bother Scott? Because, all right, well, let me back up for a second. I realized when we were prepping for this episode that this episode is exactly 1 year from the episode last year where I pitched essentially Wild Love Theory to you for the first time. You had never heard anything about it.
And if you haven't heard, that episode is called April Gets Her Stocking Stuffed. And I was essentially pissed.
Yeah, she was not happy about it. It was I was
totally blindsided and questioned your motives.
Yeah, I mean, I told her in that episode, I kind of explained a little bit of Wild Love Theory, the idea I'd been working on, and that I no longer felt like I needed to have any rules on her as far as what she did, when interacting with people. So that was a year ago. Actually, one day, the episode will release on Tuesday, 1 day shy of a year from when we talked about it.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because this is kind of the first time out in the wild, so to speak, that you just, without talking to me first, I had no idea any of this conversation was or what the content of that conversation was. And you proposed, or he did, I don't even remember know which one of you proposed it, but the conversation came up about going on a dinner date. And when you first said it, when I walked up, I felt like when you said it, it was a little bit of throwing it out there just to kind of test the waters a little bit, but you were confident when you said it. And I loved that, not because I get excited about you going out on a date necessarily. I get excited about seeing you lean into this freedom.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this, when I said it, part of me was joking because I still hadn't convinced myself that I wanted to go on a date with this guy. And you tend to we're so different in the way we approach things, right? Yeah. You get excited about something and you'll be excited for a long time.
I want to talk about it. I want to discuss.
Not, in that sense, an excitable person. Like if we have something on the calendar, I'm typically not thinking about it ahead of time. I'm not super excited about something. We have so much going on in our day-to-day life with kids and work and planning, and that I feel like that excitement is just a distraction. And also I can very easily talk myself out of something. Like if I make plans for next Friday, I immediately regret it. Typically,
no matter what it is.
Because when Friday comes, maybe I wake up and decide I just want to sit in my pajamas and read a book and drink coffee for the rest of the day. And now I'm dreading the plan. And I know a lot of people can relate to that because I am a true introvert, that when I make plans, then I have to push them aside and not think of them intentionally because I know that I can talk myself out of it.
Yeah. And it's curious because I, like you say, I handle those situations the exact opposite. I get excited about virtually anything we have on the books. And while I guess you could make the argument that it's a distraction to the work that we need to get done, those distractions help keep me upbeat, motivated, and looking forward to something and kind of, all right, let's get this work done because we've got this big thing we've got to do.
I will say the only thing that creates that kind of excitement in me is seeing my children or grandkids. And you may be the opposite in that regard.
Well, no, I mean, I get excited about so much.
Yeah.
But the problem for you, like you said, is too much excitement builds a lot a lot of thinking tends to drift towards, I don't know if I should do this.
Right.
All right. So anyway, when you hit me with that, when I walked up and I felt a little bit of that, like, we're going out on a date, and I don't even know it's hard for me to replicate the way you said it, but I sensed a bit of hesitancy or uncertainty in your voice. And so I tried to react because I know if I react too excited, it triggers you, not triggers you, but like, you're like, hey, I'm not getting married to the guy.
Well,
calm down.
I will say this because sometimes in the past, because of your excitement, you will constantly go, I just want to let you know I'm okay with this. And I'm just like, you'll constantly check in with me, which then makes me feel like, am I not showing enough excitement to soothe his mind that I'm good with this.
Yes.
And so then I will try to manufacture this excitement, and that doesn't feel true to me. And so I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I will just tell you, I need you to stop asking me. I'm good with this. My yes now is yes, and my no is no. And I need you to be confident in that as well.
Well, and that's a great way of putting it, because that's exactly why I get worried sometimes when you're showing no excitement or what looks to me like no excitement. I'm like, why is she even doing this? Right. Why would you go if you're not excited? So I do. I'm trying to not ask questions, and we're going to get to parts of that part of the equation here in a minute. But I just want to say that when you said that, I wasn't expecting it, and I instantly sort of, in my brain, tried to process how should I respond to this in this moment. Because I thought if I went, high five, guys, so that would have been weird for you.
Right.
All right. And if I acted like I wasn't at least a little bit happy about it, you might interpret that as, he's pissed. So I tried to make the most middle-ish reaction I could possibly make. This very narrow lane. But I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I gave 2 thumbs up. This guy.
Yeah.
And
we got fireworks.
Holy cow, that made fireworks shoot up on our computer screen.
On our YouTube.
So yeah, I kind of acted happy, but not too much, trying to hit that sweet spot. And then I didn't bring it up again. And I know you guys continued to have conversation after that, but I don't really know much about what that conversation was. But it's interesting that you face a situation like this. You don't really know how to handle it until you're in it, because this is not something that vanilla people ever rehearse or plan for.
Well, and I don't know what your notes are on this, but let me just explain to you a little bit about why I am excited about this. And I knew I was excited. I knew I could trust it because, number one, I was stone cold sober. I was driving that night, and so I wasn't drinking. And so even afterwards, when I was thinking over it, I'm like, had I been drinking, I probably would not be as excited, because I wasn't have all my faculties about me.
You wouldn't be confident you're remembering things correctly.
Right,
maybe.
Right. But I was stone cold sober. But also, I have messaged with him a little bit, not a lot, but it hasn't gone sexual, which I love. It's been fun, lighthearted banter. He gets my sarcasm. He's funny. And I love that, because a lot of times things like this will go straight to the bedroom, like straight to sex, straight to like sending sexy pictures. And
guys, especially.
Yeah. And I don't love that kind, because I get bored of that very, very quickly. You can only send so many nudes or sexy pictures before it's just like, all right, there's really no substance to this. So he's very smart. He has a high emotional IQ from what I know so far. Yeah. But he is very smart.
Yes.
He appears to be.
Well, and so what did after I came up and you told me about, can't remember exactly how you worded it, but what was the conversations after that? Was there much?
No, well, he asked if I would be open to like meeting for dinner or drinks, and I told him no. And then he asked a couple
Wait a minute, you told him no, like just being funny?
No, I was serious. And then we would talk for a little bit, and then he asked again. I was like, it's still a no. I had no intention of meeting him for drinks. And then the more we talked, the more I was like, you know what, this could be kind of fun. Because he didn't take himself very seriously.
Yeah.
And so I think by like the end of the night, I told him it was a maybe. And then it wasn't until we started texting.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
I changed it to an actual, I would love to meet.
Well, okay. So let's move to that part. And again, this is the kind of things that let me know that this had real possibility for actually happening and you enjoying it, is because the next day on Saturday, you guys started exchanging some text messages. Occasionally something funny would be said and you would read that to me, and then you would talk about things a little bit more proactively without me asking. And it was light and fun and funny, and you had a bounce in your step. And that's when I knew for sure that, oh, wow, this is something. She is acting differently than she typically would in this situation. She's probably very interested in doing this dinner date.
Yeah.
which is unusual for you because you not only for the reasons you've brought up, but you also tend to just struggle to find that kind of emotional connection with men.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's an emotional connection right now,
Well,
but
or whatever, the fun, lighthearted banter. So the next day, we were going back to that same city for a different event, just to meet was going to watch powerlifting meet.
Yeah.
And we got to having a conversation a little bit about this whole thing. And you were actually texting. Turns out you were texting him, or at least some of that time that we were driving over there. And you guys made arrangements. I know we were in the car when this happened. I think it was on the way to powerlifting meet, but you said you went back and forth. And then finally you looked at me and again made a statement that sounded a little bit like a question as well, where you said, well, we're going to dinner, whatever the date was, the 21st or something. And, we're going at 6:00 at this dinner, blah, blah, blah. But when you said it again, it felt like you were sort of throwing that out there as a statement, but
question.
But gauging my reaction.
You're my person. And so I always want to make sure that you're okay with it, that, check in and gauge how you're feeling about it. That's a part of this process. I would never want to be flippant and hurt your feelings.
Right. So I, again, tried to react. I think I reacted a little more exuberantly here than I did at the actual bar that night. But I was like, oh, that is awesome. Good for you. This is like so fun to watch you have fun with this, this whole scenario. What was interesting about that is to watch the growth that you've had from last year when this was first pitched to you till now. It's a different type of person, because I'm not sure April a year ago could confidently name her own desires and go after them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And even though you still in your voice had some hesitancy, you were really stepping up and trying to say, this is something I want to do and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a lot of time this year working on figuring out what my desires are. What do I actually want? But you've played a huge role in that too, because last year, probably at this time, you would have been going, have you messaged him? Message him back. You haven't messaged him, and that kind of thing, feeling like I was like, okay, do I have full autonomy over this? Or and it was almost a performance thing. Like, he wants me to do this, so I need to respond, which would make me dig my heels in and go, I don't want to respond because you are telling me to respond.
Yeah.
I want to do it because I want to do it.
Well, that brings up a part of this that I'm hoping will generate some discussion. We'd love to hear from people if they agree or disagree with this. But I've realized that because of the differences, like you've talked about, and how we handle these situations, where I like to get excited, talk about it, look forward to it, and I never regret putting anything on the books. You could just fill the calendar up with stuff, and I'm going to look forward to all of it. But I know that kind of thing can pressure you, whether directly or indirectly. So I have tried to stay quiet about it. And interestingly, doing that, you've actually talked more about it than you did the one other kind of date you had nearly a year ago, because you've had conversations with him that were funny, and you want to say, oh, listen to what he said, or listen to what I said to him. And that gives me a huge amount of comfort. What I've realized is I don't need to know everything that's being said. And when we first started talking about separate dating, I felt like I needed to know everything that was being said, and it would eat at me if I knew you'd been messaging somebody and I didn't know what exactly was going on. I haven't had that desire as strong, and I have an overwhelming desire to mind my own business.
Well, I am your business.
I know, but you know what I mean? I don't want you to feel like you don't have this autonomy. And I don't want you to feel pressure like the only way I'm going to get to do something like this is if I'm constantly reading messages and telling him everything that's going on, because that's annoying. I mean, like, if somebody sends us a string of text messages, a vanilla friend or something, and you ask me, well, what are they saying? I'm going to give you a one sentence gist of it, and you're not going to care any more past that. And, this is different. This is my person going out on a dinner date. It may be the only thing that ever happens, but it's still my person going on. But it's become a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
I no longer feel the need for us to have group texts. I trust you.
Yeah.
And when I say trust, it doesn't mean that I think I trust that you will never write a message or say a thing to anybody else that doesn't flare up some jealousy, cause envy, maybe even upset me for some reason. But I also have enough faith in you to know that if that happens, it's probably my fault, or it's probably my intellectual shortcoming, and it wasn't your intention for that to happen.
Right. Well, and that's a year ago when you presented Wild Love Theory and we started working through it. That is the catalyst for me getting back in therapy and starting to do some real deep self work on myself, because I know that when I feel jealousy or envy or insecurity, that's a me issue. That's not a you issue, because I trust you. And so anytime those things come up, I have to figure out, why am I feeling that? What's the cause? What can I do and communicate that to you in a loving way that we can communicate through that. But I think that has really helped, doing that work and continuing to do that work. I'm still in therapy and I'm still doing the work because I want to be a better partner to you. And I want to be a better human for myself. And I think that just spills over to every area of my life.
Well, again, we're 4 days outside of that event. So we're projecting a lot into the future here. But one thing I did notice was how easy this was for me this time. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's trace back to the other 2 attempts at separate dates you've had. One of them
over a year ago.
Well, yeah, the first one for sure was.
Yeah.
That first attempt, we had set up an app, a field account, and we had been messaging a bunch of different people, and you ended up choosing this guy to go out on a date with, and it ended up falling through because he started getting he was pressuring you pretty
much. He was.
But before you ended up canceling the date, you decided to meet him for coffee just to make sure he's a real person and, in a public place and all that kind of stuff. I was like, sure, go do that. I mean, that's not a problem at all. And I really meant it. I thought, well, I mean, this is just, you had a hair appointment or something right after. This couldn't go any longer than 45 minutes. The minute you left that day, totally unexpectedly, I just started having I don't know if a panic attack's the right thing.
I would call that a panic attack.
But I started scrambling, trying to get somebody to go with me to play pickleball just to take my mind off of it. Nobody could go that short notice. I went to the courts and just served balls into the fence for an hour, watching Life 360 to see if you were still at this place you were supposed to meet him. Well, that was tough, unexpectedly. I mean, it was such a nothing thing, and I still spiraled over.
That's new. That's expected, right? Of anything new is going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, but you were just going to coffee.
Right. But we had never done that. That was uncharted territory.
Yeah. And you never know until you're in those situations. Yeah. Well, then you had an actual date with a guy. I don't remember how much later down the road this was, and you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right. Just real quick, what happened on that one? It just wasn't enough interest. I won't give a
full recap.
No, I'm not on the date, but of why you never contacted him again.
Well, this was a different relationship dynamic because he was wanting me to kind of play this dom role, which I would absolutely love to do. I just don't really have the time to be in that role. Where I'm having to plan different scenes and I'm having to travel because he didn't live super close. And that I just, at this phase of my life, while I would love to do that, and I really adored him and still do, I just don't really have the time for that.
Yeah. Well, and even that one, while I felt like I handled this one better than the first go around, I still sat in my bed watching Life 360. I was working on a project, but I sat in the bed and watched Life 360 wondering, all right, are they going someplace else? Where are they going? This go around, though, this guy from 4 days ago, I've literally had almost none of that. Yeah. And I don't know what to attribute that to other than just exposure to these ideas, talking about this with you. Just the conversations have seemed to normalize it and calm my nervous system down and let me handle them much easier. But that's not to say that I haven't had any flutterings of it. One of the things I've noticed is both of us are on our phones all day long.
Right.
It's messages, emails, constantly. Ever since Friday night, whenever you're on your phone texting, I can feel myself resisting what's bubbling underneath, which is, I bet she's texting him, and not mad about it, but I'm just like, I wonder what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, you probably have only messaged him once for every 10 times I thought you might be messaging.
Well,
him.
That's one thing that I've really enjoyed is he's not blowing up my phone constantly. I mean, it's very respectful, and because I'm not a huge text person.
Yeah, neither of us are. But, and what I have noticed in this process of 4 days is I was violating one of the things we've actually written about in the book. There's a chapter, 2 chapters back to back in the book, right in the middle. The first chapter is called The Bad Prophet, and the next chapter is called The Unprophet. The idea behind The Bad Prophet is that one of the main reasons we struggle and have issues in our relationship, and it infects so much of what we do, is this attempt at trying to control our environments by predicting the future. Now, that happens in a number of ways. We feel like we're able to read people. Mm-hmm. So we take their words and assume that we can understand the full meaning and intent, and we project what we think they might be meaning or might be about to do based off reading between the lines. We think we're good at picking up people's energy and vibe and telling who's a good person and who's not. We think we're very empathetic and that we can really feel what other people are feeling beneath the words that they're saying. And then we start to project with this information that we've sort of made up in our head based off, we have actual data, what people are saying, and then we sort of project into that what it might mean in the future.
That's not to say that you shouldn't listen to your intuition.
No. So intuition is different than projection, though. Intuition is when you're reacting in the moment off of hard data to what's happening right then. And that tends to be very accurate stuff. Like, sometimes they've done studies where it shows how people that have gotten attacked and, out in public, like mugged or something, had a sense that they were in a place they shouldn't be, or had a feeling that, this is a dangerous situation, and they ignored that.
Right.
So we know that type of intuition is fairly accurate. All right. That was, evolutionarily speaking, that's the type of intuition we developed.
Right.
What we're not very good at, that evolutionary development of intuition is not good at projecting things in relationships and love.
Right.
It's not what that intuition was ever designed for. Now, they've done studies showing, this is all, we cite all this in the book. 70% of people confidently believe they can read others better than the average person. And this is very similar to most people think they're an above average driver. Most people think their IQ is higher than average. Most people think they're better looking than average. Yeah. And all of that's impossible.
Well, and I will say this. I think I am one of those people. And this year has proven me otherwise.
Well, I was fixing to say, this is one of the things the study found out is that while 70% of the people think they're above average, of the people that took these tests trying to confirm whether or not they were good at reading or empathizing with people, only 20% of the time were their predictions about their partner accurate. Yeah. And worse, this is the most startling find, is that the people who were the most confident that they were above average at this skill were the worst ones, typically were the worst on the test. Yeah. Because their confidence gives them emotional blind spots, and makes them miss a lot of things. And this is, but we're constantly confirming that we think we're good because our brain easily remembers the times we're right and just sort of hand waves or rationalizes away the times that we're wrong. Yeah. And what happens is as we start to think through things and read between the lines and think we know what our partner's intentions are, even when they haven't said that, causes all kind of problems. Our brain starts to spiral and we start to project problems down the road, and this is going to go wrong for these reasons.
Well, and I think from somebody who is coming from a background with some trauma and from a young age learned to watch people, especially men, very carefully and with vigilance, that does affect the way I see men and respond to them, and even you. And so that is another reason why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, because I am not always right.
Yeah. Problems start to emerge as we're having these thought spirals about all the potential issues, landmines that we see in the future that may not accurately represent reality. But I noticed myself doing this, not a lot, but just mildly. And like I said, I've really hadn't struggled with this at all this time. But I was noticing that as you were messaging like yesterday or the day before, whatever, I wonder what they're talking about. I wonder if they're making plans for that night and she's not telling me. I was like, whoa, here's me violating exactly what we've written about in this book. I'm inferring from data that I have information that I'm just guessing at. So I had to start resorting to our own advice, which is the next chapter, the Unprophet chapter, where instead of trying to predict the future, you react only to the data that you have in front of you and in the moment. And then you try to remain steady and calm in the middle of this unpredictable moment that you find yourself in. And in the book, in some ways, we talk about this being like the eye of a hurricane, where it's calm in the middle, you're steady and grounded despite what's going on around you. And I was able to sort of calm myself down, even though it wasn't an overly bad feeling. But I did notice that what we wrote about in the book came to play, and the solution we put in the book helped.
Would it help if I just told you to calm down?
So I think so. Well, so this brings me to another issue too. I also have come to the belief, I'm not 100% sure I'm right about this, but I think it's important in a relationship for us to feel like we have whatever degree of privacy that we want. Early on, we said absolutely no separate messaging. So anytime we were or with the opposite sex anyway, everything was done in a group message. We a lot of times shared accounts, like some of these messaging accounts for a while, so that if you were messaging somebody, it popped up, I could see it immediately.
Yeah. That
felt safe because it allowed us to try to manage the situation and ensure nothing untoward was going on. But I'm to the point where I think I want to honor your privacy, even though you're not trying to keep things from me, but I don't want to feel like I'm trying to make you feel like you have to give me a line by line transcript of everything that goes on in your life. How do you feel about me saying that about your privacy?
Oh, I love my privacy.
Well, yeah, but that's not always been.
Well, here's the thing, because I do value my privacy, but I feel like the less you ask, the more I want to share with you. Yeah. Because I don't feel like I'm being hounded or pushed or pressured when I don't have anything. In the last two times, it felt like a constant, what now, what now, what now? And if I wasn't messaging, I was like, well, there's really nothing to tell you. And you would be like, I just don't get, like, why aren't you sharing with me more? And I'm like, there really isn't anything to share. And then I would feel bad because I'm like, he thinks I'm hiding something, but I'm not hiding something. There's legitimately nothing to share. And you would kind of get upset that I wasn't excited. And I'm like, there's nothing to be excited about.
Well, not upset, but just concerned that you're doing this and you don't really want to, kind of thing. I've come to realize that you just handle these differently to me, but that's going to be a tricky thing to say because it sounds like we're criticizing people that don't give their partner the ability to, have private moments or something that.
No, but every relationship is different and every relationship is in a different space. And so you have to do whatever is right for your relationship and for you as a person.
Yeah. Well, I no longer feel the need to know every word you exchange between another person, even if that's a person that you might have some interest in. And that has been something that I've had to work on. I haven't done therapy about it, but I've just had to sit with those ideas and think through them and really try to answer in my own head, am I wanting something that is detrimental to her process? And I think it is to an extent. This constant wanting to kind of be updated all the time. First of all, it's new, and that's my attempt to control it. If I think I know what's going on, I can put rules and guide rails in place to make sure it doesn't go off the road.
Right.
But that's not my business to worry about.
Right.
It should be your date, your relationship, not mine to control. And if I feel like you can't do it without me needing that control, then we as a unit probably shouldn't involve ourselves with that kind of stuff.
Well, however, I am not in the same place you are in.
Well, right. But I'm not going out on a date either.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, do you recognize though that, would you agree with that, that it's probably not something, well, I shouldn't go out on a date if you feel the need to control it through
Well, I don't feel the
absolute
need
transparency.
to control it, but I'm still not comfortable with you one-on-one chatting with a girl. And we've talked about that. I mean, that's the thing with wild love theory. I told you, I don't know if I will ever get to the place where you're at with me. And that was one of the things we discussed right off the bat. If you're expecting reciprocity right now, I can't give that to you. And if that's what you want, then we need to not do this. I can promise you that I will work towards that.
Which
I actively am.
Yeah, you have.
And a lot of the boundaries that I had on you, them post boundaries, some of those I have removed, but I'm not all the way there yet.
Yeah, right. And that's all I've ever asked is not reciprocity, but effort.
Right.
Because I think we both agree, well, we should, since we're writing a book about it, that relational freedom is an important thing.
Yeah.
Personal autonomy is an important thing. Trying to not become, psychiatrists call it an enmeshed couple, where their life and hobbies and activities are so enmeshed with one another that they tend to lose their individuality and a sense of who they are as a person, because really they're a couple. They're no longer two different people working this life together. They've just become a unit, and you get very codependent, that sort of thing. But I've seen growth in both of us. The more reps essentially that I've had at seeing you go through this process, the easier it is getting. And that seems to be moving. Like, it's only been 3 instances, and I feel like I've made huge strides in handling my emotions in those moments. And even though you haven't granted me the same level of freedom, you've certainly relaxed a lot of the boundaries that we had previously in place around me.
Right.
Because you're starting to be, well, why is that? Why have you relaxed some of them?
Well, one thing that I think we should talk about is everybody comes into a relationship with different life and lived experiences. Where you're coming from is a very, very vastly, strikingly different upbringing and life experience than I came into this with. And so I have a lot of, probably a lot more undoing of certain habits and patterns, thought patterns, in the way I processed emotions and traumas very differently than you did. And so I'm undoing a lot of that. I'm not going to say it was easier for you, because I know the process was very difficult, but it's just different. And that is what wild love theory is about. Nobody should go into it and just go, okay, today we're going to remove all imposed boundaries and see how this goes, because that will be a fucking train wreck. It's okay. And I feel okay with this, being at a point where I can say to you, I'm not there. Maybe I never will be, but I'm going to work towards that. And I'm going to continue to work towards that. And I feel like I've done a lot of work this year.
Yeah. And if I thought you were just feeding me a line of shit in order to be able to go out on your own dates, then we would never be doing any of this. I really have seen, I can feel the smaller amount of overwatch that, we used to both watch each other like a hawk at events. And that's gotten less and less. But for you, I sincerely saw a shift there where you're so much more at ease. Not just with what I'm doing, but with yourself in general, being in events and just not being so uptight leading up to them and things like that. But there's been a lot of growth, and that's good, and it's not comfortable. Like, this growth is not easy. It's not like I went to this, or I eventually let these rules go away on you because it was something that I just felt was easy. This was a hard, hard process. And that first time you went out on a date was a hard process for me to get through. It's not comfortable, but that uncomfortability is not always a sign, or not necessarily a sign that something wrong is going on. It's just your central nervous system pushing against the edges of your comfortability. And that's a sign of growth, or can be. So I'm happy with the way, I really am happy that happened the other night. It was a perfect storm, because it wasn't a lifestyle event. We weren't expecting that. And that lets you be a little freer.
Yeah.
And you handled it like it seemed like it was an enjoyable process for you, where normally that stuff's tough for you.
Yeah, I know it was very enjoyable, and is. And I knew, well, I felt comfortable even telling my best friends. Like, it was like something that I was fun and excited, and even they were shocked. They're like, what?
Yeah, I heard you tell two of your very best friends, and everybody's like, oh my God, what the fuck? What happened? How did this come up?
Because it's not typical for me, but I think it was just unexpected, and it's been light and it's been fun. No expectations. And I like that.
Well, and that's another thing too. Your ease at expressing the enjoyment of this is changed too, because previously, if you were somewhat interested in a guy, it felt like you were always checking up a bit when you were talking to me because you didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable. Or I don't know why, but it's easier for you to say, hey, I'm enjoying this. I like this.
Yeah.
And that brings up the final point here that I want you to address, if you will. This really pushed into what you're going to be talking about in your keynote address at HEDO here in about 3 weeks. This figuring out
how to know what you want and tapping into what your actual desires are. And this isn't just for women, it's for men too, to ask yourself some important questions. What would I do if there was nobody that I could disappoint?
I love that question so much.
And here's the thing. I have been saying that to my children since they were little, but I've never actually said that to myself until the last year or two. I mean, you've heard me say it to my kids. Don't make any decision as if you were going to disappoint me or your dad or anybody else. Only make decisions to not disappoint yourself. And I never fucking told myself that. And so that is a big thing because we're always worried about, are we going to disappoint our parents or our kids or our partner but what would I actually want if there was nobody to disappoint? Being able to sit with that question and really think about it in that moment. I didn't think about, would I disappoint you or would I, I obviously wanted to check in to be like, are you okay?
Right.
And, in that way.
But we'd had those discussions. I'd said to you what you've said to your kids. Don't get in these situations and make decisions based off whether or not you think I'm going to be upset or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I trust the person I'm with to follow her desires. And I trust myself enough to know that if it bothers me, it's my own inner work and I will do the work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, as recently as a week ago, coming out of a long marriage where I was only worried about disappointing people, it's so hard to undo that thought pattern and those habits and stuff. I mean, I was just got a text from my ex-husband and the text message just left me shaking. Like I still have visceral reactions from being in a marriage like that. So those things I'm still undoing. And it's hard work when you've spent, 47 years living like that, to not disappoint my mother or my brothers or my kids or, anyone else. That's not easy work to do.
Well, it's not easy to get yourself to the point where you can actually name your desires, but it's also difficult, even if you think you do know what your desires are. If you don't feel like your relational partner is your safe space, it's just too uncomfortable. It's too many question marks to try to lean into some of this freedom. And I feel good that there must be an even bigger trust growth between us that's at least partially responsible for you feeling comfortable enough to say yes to a dinner date.
Absolutely. I trust you more than anybody on this earth. Yeah, isn't that sweet? I do. I mean, we are fully transparent. I believe that you're transparent with me. I don't think that you're hiding anything from me. I don't think that you're going to hide your emotions if you're feeling jealous or you're feeling anxious. I feel confident that you would share that with me, and that we would be able to communicate through that.
So this will be interesting. The dinner date is a week from now.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll recap it on the final podcast of the year before
I don't cancel it.
If he doesn't, should be an interesting week to see how this plays out. But you'll have that date. Then we'll post it on it'll be the 28th or something. And that'll be the one that goes out right before we head to Jamaica for our event there.
Yeah. I do want to say this though. we will talk about it, but I am very, very protective of my partners and my relationships in my life, and will do everything in my power to protect anonymity and confidences. So that's a reason why we don't share like our sexual sexcapades and something. I never want somebody to listen to our podcast and think, oh God, I don't want to go on a date with them or have sex with them because I don't want them to exploit us for content. That is not what this is about.
It's a delicate line. Like, in other words, if we talk about this on the next podcast, it's not going to be a step-by-step recap of, well, he touched my leg and I got wet, and none of that kind of shit's going to show up. But we do think these conversations like this one today are important because we just want to talk through the real types of issues and struggles that you can face in this non-monogamous space. And I think this has been a good lesson for us personally. We've realized that there's been some growth for both of us because of the way this situation's been handled. And hopefully maybe some of this conversation has caused a conversation for some of our listeners to talk about, well, they're crazy with this separate messaging stuff. That's dumb. But, those are great conversations to have.
And if you want to learn more about wild love theory, or have heard enough about it that you want to attend our wild love theory retreat with Catherine from Expansive Connection. It is going to be April 15th through the 19th in the Smoky Mountains. And I think we have like 10 spots left. So you can go to our website, naughtygym.com, click on the events tab, and we have everybody schedule a Zoom with us just so that we can go over all the details of the event, what kind of the itinerary will look like, what's included, what's not included.
But it's going to be a very deep relational dive.
It will also be fun.
Yes.
All of our trips we call adventure trips. So there will be fun. There will be a time to make great connections. But this really is a few days to focus on you and your partner, figure out what your rules, what is serving you and what may no longer be serving you.
And a potential path forward for slowly moving a little further down the line towards relational freedom. This is not, wild love theory is not, hey, I want to give my partner complete freedom or I'm not doing it right. Yeah. It's just about an orientation towards this autonomy and freedom in relationships. Also, if you check it out on our event page, we've got our trip to Barcelona in August of next year, our trip to El Salvador in October. We're going to have our Smoky Mountains events again, the holidays and the men's and women's retreat. Those aren't up yet, but they should be up before too much longer. And we'd love to have you on any of that stuff.
Yeah. And also our religion and non-monogamy. Oh, yeah. It's September 10th through the 13th. Expansive Connection is also partnering with us in that one. And that will be in the Smoky Mountains as well. That'll be on the website soon. And that is for anybody who is trying to reconcile their spirituality or religion with non-monogamy. And then there will also be a track for people who may be deconstructing their faith or belief system and need a little guidance along that path as well. So that'll be September 10th through the 13th in the Smoky Mountains.
Well, that should wrap things up. I will do my best not to mention this dinner date anymore between now and then.
All right.
But I really am proud of you. I'm proud of us, and I'm excited.
All right. Happy holidays to everyone. We will see you on the other side of the holidays. And remember to never stop playing.